This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Pero may mga nagsasabi na ang problema ay nanggagaling mismo sa Supreme Court.
Ano sa palagay nyo ang endgame na gustong mangyari nung grupo ng Maute?
Napakadaming problema ng bayan. Magandang gabi po, mga kasambahay. Muli pong sumasa inyo yung kaibigan si Kitatad, kasama po si Ariel Ayala sa ating programa, Una sa Lahat. Kasama din po natin ngayong gabi ang kanyang kabunian, ang ambassador po ng Russian Federation, si Ambassador Igor Khovaev. Good evening, Mr. Ambassador.
Good evening.
Welcome back to this program and welcome back to Manila after your short trip abroad. You just had your elections in Russia on March 18, if I'm not mistaken. And this was one of the few wonderful things that we have not read in our insular press. We'd like to congratulate you on the success of your election.
Thank you very much. I highly appreciate it.
I'd like to offer our congratulations and best wishes to President Putin on his impressive landslide. But it looks like there is no shortage of challenges ahead. I'd like to begin by asking you, Mr. Ambassador, about President Putin's March 1st State of the Union address. It was a powerful speech. The German-born American intellectual Helga Zepp-LaRousse called it a Sputnik speech, apparently referring to Sputnik 1, the first artificial Earth satellite launched by the Soviet Union in 1957. In that speech, President Putin spoke of how he proposes to attack the many problems that confront Russia today, principally poverty, which we all share. But I think you will agree with me that his pièce de résistance in that address was his revelation about the advances Russia has made in its defense systems, that it has developed missile defense systems which nobody else possesses and which renders all other defenses useless. Can you please tell us a little more about this?
Thank you very much once again for your congratulations. As for your question, I think it's not easy. It's not easy to answer because your question consists of a bulk of different questions.
Many parts.
Yes. So right, of course, it was a really impressive speech made by President Putin just on the eve of the presidential election. So actually, it was his presidential program speech. So it's a program for the development of my country during next 5 or 6 years, during the next presidential term of President Putin. And you see, so it was a frank speech.
Yes.
So President Putin didn't try to conceal or to sugar any problems. So we have a lot of problems, and we have nothing to hide. Moreover, President Putin prefers an honest, frank dialogue with his supporters and with his opponents. And I think it's an efficient way, which I believe will allow our country to solve many problems mentioned by President Putin in his address to the Russian parliament. Regarding the domestic part, so the speech consists of two sections, the domestic section and another section is about foreign policy. So the first one is a program for social and economic development. It's focused on a very necessary technological breakthrough. Because the main competition in the current world is the competition for new advanced technologies. So if Russia wants to be competitive, as it was said by President Putin, so first of all, the major dimension of this competitiveness is technological. And it's logically related to the second part of his speech. So, unlike you, I think that President Putin revealed new technological achievements in Russia, but not new defense systems. Because he talked about a new technologies race in the current world, rather than a new arms race. That's a major difference. And all those who read attentively the speech, the text of the speech of President Putin, so I'm sure they understood that correctly. So President Putin clearly showed, despite all challenges, despite all problems we have and we have to solve to properly cope with, Russia is ready to compete in a new technological world. That's our message to all our friends, to all our partners, and to all our opponents.
We are happy to hear this, Mr. Ambassador, and happy to be corrected. But obviously the speech was to the Russian people, clearly. But was he trying to convey any particular message to any other audience when he spoke of your technological advances?
I think it was quite logical and natural for the President of Russia to address Russian people, Russian voters, because he represents Russian people.
Yes.
Not any other country. So, and it was his address to the Russian parliament.
Yes.
That represents the interests of the Russian people. But of course, at the same time, so Russia is a responsible member of the international community, and we highly appreciate good relations with all our partners, and we want to improve the relations with some members of the international community. So, of course, that's why it was an opportunity for President Putin to convey a message to the world, to the international community, to clarify our position on pressing international, global and regional problems. Because it's a natural interest for us to be properly, correctly understood by everyone. So we don't want to be a victim of a misunderstanding, misconception, misperception. That's why we prefer an open, frank dialogue with all those who are able and ready to conduct an equal dialogue with us.
Do you think it's made your neighbors in Europe more comfortable with Russia or more worried of Russia? That Russia is now so far ahead than most.
I don't think that it's a political definition, comfortable.
Okay. Let's use
Because
another one.
it's like respect. So I hope you to understand.
Yes,
To agree with me. It's not possible to have unilateral respect. Yeah. It's not. So the respect must be mutual. Otherwise, respect doesn't exist at all. That's why it must be comfortable for both two sides to live side by side. Not only for the NATO member states to have such a neighbor like Russia,
Yeah.
But it must be comfortable for us, for Russians, to have a so powerful neighbor like NATO alliance. So it's a mutual dependence.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street.
The West is fixated on at least 2% of their GDP to be used in their defense. My question is, will this Russian technological breakthrough affordable?
For our partners, yes. Yes, it is.
Comparing it with, shall I say, technological breakthrough of the Americans, they have the most expensive fighter plane in the world that they cannot afford to fly, most of it.
That's why we are talking about new technologies race, not an arms race. We don't need any arms race. It's quite costly. It's too expensive for us. And I would like just to remind you, the defense budget of Russia, of my country, is about 46 billion US dollars. Do you know the military budget of the United States?
750.
716, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Plus more than 200 billion US dollars. That's the budget of all other NATO member states. So on the one hand, at least 1 trillion US dollars military expenditures, and only 46 billion US dollars for military expenditures in Russia. So my rhetorical question is very simple. How can Russia be a threat to the security of Western Europe? How is it possible? So it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to portray Russia as a threat to the international security. Absolutely. That's why I'm saying again, our aim is to make a technological breakthrough. And it will be in the interest of first of all, of our social and economic development, and of course in the interest of our security and defense. And on this way, we are ready to share our technological achievements with all our partners, including the Philippines.
So if you have 46 and the West have $1 trillion, your technological breakthrough must at least be 21 times better the Western technology.
Yes, we hope so. I'm very sorry. Maybe I'm not very modest, but I hope it's forgivable for me. But we Russians, we have a lot of intelligent, smart people.
No doubt.
That's beyond any doubt. So our brains, that's our most important achievement.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go back to that in a little while.